In a tense exchange, Representative Pete Aguilar presses Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over the controversial decision to deploy National Guard troops to Los Angeles without the state's consent. What followed was a fiery clash over power, accountability, and the limits of federal authority. Hegseth snapped back, defending the move as a matter of law and order. But this moment exposed something much deeper: the growing tension between state control and federal overreach.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Aguilar.
Thank you, Chairman General Calvert.
That's right.
Thanks to the witnesses for being here.
Yes, okay, Private, go ahead.
The clock's still moving, Mr. Secretary, I want to express my severe concern with the deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles without consultation of the state of California. There have been photographs that have shown these troops sleeping on the floor and have not been provided fuel, food, or water by DoD. How long will this deployment last, and why were we unprepared to provide them basic necessities such as food and water?
The commanders and troops on the field are very well prepared, sir. They responded incredibly rapidly to a deteriorating situation with equipment and capabilities. We have made sure from the top down, as a Secretary of Defense who's been in a unit holding riot shields outside the White House during the chaos of the summer of 2020, I know what it's like to be immediately deployed into a situation like that. There are moments where you make do as best you can temporarily, but we are ensuring they're housed, fed, water capabilities in real time from my office, because I care that much about the California Guard and the Marines and the men and women who are supporting our ICE agents on the ground.
You should check
It's
with your
true
office.
every day, and that's a disingenuous attack that
last?
misrepresents how much we care about our troops and
long
what
will
they're
the
doing to
deployment
defend ICE agents. I'm not going to take the fact that we don't care about the troops. Nobody cares more about the troops at the top than this secretary and the chairman and our
How long will
department.
the deployment last?
We stated very publicly that it's 60 days. Because we want to ensure that those rioters, looters, and thugs on the other side assaulting our police officers know that we're not going anywhere. We're here to maintain the peace on behalf of law enforcement officers in Los Angeles, which Gavin Newsom won't do.
What is the estimated cost of the deployment for the Guard and the Marines to LA, and where's this funding coming from? Will it be coming from quality of life programs that affect our service members or our families? If you want to wait till I finish
Before I hand it to
such as updates, housing and barracks.
Before I hand it to Bryn, the insinuation that we're pulling money from housing and barracks in order to fund this is disingenuous and incorrect.
I'm just asking.
Bryn can give you the numbers, absolutely.
So the current estimated cost is $134 million, which is largely just TDY costs, travel, housing, food, et cetera.
Where's it coming from? That's the cost, but where's it coming from?
Out of their O&M accounts.
With the most recent deployment of the Marines, Mr. Secretary, what's the justification for using the military for civilian law enforcement purposes in LA? Why are you sending war fighters to cities to interact with civilians?
Every American citizen deserves to live in a community that's safe, and ICE agents need to be able to do their job. They're being attacked for doing their job, which is deporting illegal criminals. That should happen in any city, Minneapolis or Los Angeles. And if they're attacked, that's lawless, and President Trump believes in law and order. So he has every authority, and he has done mobilizing National Guard or active duty troops under U.S. code to protect federal agents in their job, which is exactly what we're doing, and we're proud to do it. We're proud to do it.
10 U.S.C. of the U.S. Code 12406 as a legal basis that the President used cites 3 examples and circumstances for the Guard: invasion by a foreign nation, rebellion or dangerous rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, or the President is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Which authority is triggered here to justify the use?
I don't know. You just read it yourself, and people can listen themselves, but it sounds like all 3 to me. If you've got millions of illegals and you don't know where they're coming from, they're waving flags from foreign countries and assaulting police officers and law enforcement officers, that's the problem.
The laws of the United States?
No, the governor of California is unable to execute the laws of the United States.
The President, you said all
The governor of the California has failed to protect his people, along with the mayor of Los Angeles, and so President Trump has said he will protect our agents, and our Guard and Marines are proud to do it.
The law also says, Mr. Secretary, that the orders for these purposes shall be issued through governors of the states.
You and I both know that President Trump has all the authorities necessary, and thankfully he's willing to do it on behalf of the citizens of Los Angeles, on behalf of our ICE agents, and behalf of our country.
We've also pulled $1 billion for the border as well, so this just goes into the same fund, 134. What did
Congressman,
you
what's
indicate, 134 million? I was asking Ms. McDonald.
Okay.
134 million goes on top of the billion that's been pulled for the
So
border.
the funding that was pulled for this year was largely in FSRM, and in this budget, we're actually looking to plus that funding back up to backfill that for our troops and for their families.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Valadeo.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, General. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for being here.
What you just watched wasn't just another partisan argument. It was a direct confrontation over one of the most fundamental questions in American democracy: who controls the use of military force on U.S. soil? When Aguilar questioned why the National Guard was deployed in Los Angeles without California's authorization, he was challenging not just the logistics, but the legitimacy of that decision. His concern was clear. Why were troops sleeping on the floor without food or water, and why was this operation carried out with no coordination with the state's leadership? Hegseth's reaction was immediate and defensive, accusing Aguilar of being disingenuous and claiming the administration deeply cared for the troops. But notice how quickly the conversation turned political. Hegseth framed the issue as one of law and order, portraying the deployment as a necessary stand against rioters and thugs, and directly blaming California's leadership for failing to maintain control. That moment reveals something crucial. This wasn't just about national security, it was about narrative control. By invoking law and order, Hegseth was appealing to a powerful political theme, one that's often used to justify extraordinary federal actions, including the use of military forces within U.S. cities. Aguilar then pressed further, asking under which legal authority this deployment was made, citing U.S. Code 12406, which limits federal use of troops to specific situations like rebellion or invasion. Hegseth's response, that it sounded like all three, was stunning. It stretched the meaning of rebellion and foreign invasion to fit a domestic law enforcement scenario. This exchange exposes a dangerous gray area in U.S. law, where the same code that allows the president to protect the nation can also be interpreted to justify sending active duty troops into American neighborhoods. And when Hegseth dismissed the requirement that such orders must go through state governors, saying the president had all the authority necessary, it underscored a broader question. What happens when the federal government overrides state sovereignty in the name of security? For people living in Los Angeles, this isn't theoretical. The idea of federal troops patrolling civilian areas evokes serious historical echoes, from the use of the National Guard during civil unrest in the 1960s to the deployment around protests in 2020. Each time, Americans have wrestled with the same dilemma. How do we balance order and liberty when the government's power expands in the name of safety? Aguilar's frustration was about more than funding or logistics. It was about principle, the idea that democracy depends on checks and balances, even in moments of chaos. And that's the essence of what makes this exchange so important. Moments like this force us to ask, who decides when America's military should face outward and when it should be turned inward? If we stop questioning that line, it can shift quietly until it's too late. Don't forget to subscribe to Left Lens and hit the like button if you want more deep, fact-based political analysis that goes beyond the headlines, where we break down not just what happened, but why it matters.